Beijing, China. It's just after nightfall in the year 1908. A mysterious group leaves the Forbidden City. Servants, mounted imperial guards, the palace chamberlain. It's an official escort plus security detail. But they're not taking someone out of the city. They're on a mission to bring someone back. They travel north until they arrive at a red-gated mansion, the home of Prince Chun. He is not expecting visitors, but the imperial procession is not here for him. They're looking for his 2-year-old son. The little boy is afraid of the strangers and hides in a cupboard. The servants try to pull him out and carry him away, but the boy resists. He screams, he sobs, he scratches and wails. When they finally manage to calm him down, they take him back to the Forbidden City. This little 2-year-old boy was just chosen to rule China. His name is Puyi. Puyi is going to be the next emperor of the Qing dynasty, and the Chinese people will regard him as a living god. This video is largely based on the excellent book, The Last Emperor by Edward Beer. Find the link in the description. It's Puyi's coronation ceremony, and the boy can't take it anymore. For what seems like an eternity, they paraded before him. Strange men speaking strange words, ministers, palace guard officers, other officials. They approach and perform a ritual bow, kneeling 3 times and touching their heads against the ground 9 times. A kowtow. Each man pledges his allegiance, words that mean nothing to the young boy. To the 2-year-old, it's incomprehensible and frightening. The one person who could soothe him, who would calm him down and make him feel safe, isn't there. His wet nurse. Puyi is not allowed to see his mother, and Nurse Wang is her replacement. She plays with him, breastfeeds him, sleeps next to him. She's his main comfort and favorite companion. But she has been excluded from the ceremony. Puyi begins to fidget. Also, he's cold. The hall is freezing. He tells his father, Prince Chun, that he wants to go home. Then he starts crying. Prince Chun is desperate. No occasion could be more important than this. It must go well. He tries to soothe his son, saying that it'll be over soon. Those words may have comforted Puyi. To the palace staff who overhear them, though, they sound like a grim prophecy, not only about the emperor's reign, but about the fate of the Qing dynasty itself. The Qing dynasty began in 1644 after a minority ethnic group, the Manchu people, overthrew the majority ethnic group, the Han people. At its peak in 1790, the Qings were the 4th largest dynasty of all time. At the time of Puyi's coronation, China had more citizens than any other country. When the boy took the throne, he became the ruler of nearly 1/3 of the world's population. China has been ruled by dynasties for more than 2,000 years, and the power of the emperor has remained unchanged since then. On paper, it was virtually limitless. The Qing emperor was arguably the most powerful human being on Earth. But actually, China and its dynasty have been in decline for a long time. A series of internal power struggles have weakened the position of the emperor, leading to this one seemingly bizarre moment. But in fact, Puyi was not selected as emperor in spite of his age, but because of it. This is Cixi, also known as the Dragon Lady. As a teenager, she was chosen to be a concubine of the emperor. After his death, she seized control of the empire and effectively ruled China for nearly 50 years as Empress Dowager. To maintain her power, she installed underage boys as puppet emperors. But as the last of them grew older, tensions arose. Now he is very ill. Cixi knows he'll soon be dead. She is willing to do anything to hold on to power. After losing a war against Japan, China was in heavy debt. As a partial payment, Cixi allows foreign forces to claim territory and valuable resources. China is weakened, the population oppressed. In the Forbidden City, a place of intrigue and conspiracy, Cixi is under massive pressure. Her health has been deteriorating. She urgently needs a new puppet. Technically, as long as Puyi is still underage, his father, Prince Chun, will be regent. He himself is loyal to Cixi. He's also incompetent, unlikely to outshine her. Exactly what she needs. After little Puyi has been seized from his home, everything seemed to be working out for her. The day after, as expected, her previous puppet emperor died. He was poisoned. But before Cixi can make her next moves, she too dies, and a 2-year-old sits on the throne. Of course, all of this is lost on Puyi. All he knows is that some important-looking people took him away from his mom, put him in a fancy robe, and are doing all sorts of strange things in front of him now. The reason is that he's no longer considered an ordinary toddler. From now on, to everyone he encounters, he's a living god. Three years later, Puyi is 5 years old now, and this is what a typical day of his might have looked like. He opens his eyes. He is on a massive kang, the platform bed where he sleeps every night, snuggled against Nurse Wang. Puyi must get dressed. Custom dictates that the clothes he wears must never have been worn before. Yesterday's outfit, his silk tunic, padded waistcoat, sable jacket, and fur-lined coat, has already been disposed of. Of course, he's not going to dress himself. As with everything, the eunuchs will take care of it. They are his servants. If you want to serve in the imperial court of the Qing dynasty, you have to become a eunuch. That means you have to cut off your penis, scrotum, and testicles. It would guarantee that the emperor is the only fertile man in the palace. Therefore, every child that was born here had to be his. Like all male Qing subjects, eunuchs wear a queue. Only a particular kind of eunuch, eunuchs of the imperial presence, were allowed to look at Puyi. All others had to look at the ground or turn away. They had no beards, their heads were bowed, their voices were high, since most had been castrated before puberty. Since tradition dictated a person couldn't reach heaven if they weren't buried whole, the eunuchs carried their removed genitals at all times, in little jars filled with salt water. The emperor is hungry. At a signal, the eunuchs will immediately prepare a huge buffet for him. Now, like every other day, he must pay a visit to the eastern palaces. Here, his other mothers live, 5 women who were either married to or concubines of the 2 previous emperors. To get to the eastern palaces, Puyi must take a walk through the city, again accompanied by the eunuchs. Wherever Puyi goes, dozens of eunuchs accompany him. One walks 30 yards in front, warning people to make way. Then come 2 chief eunuchs, walking on either side of the path. Then, about 2 feet behind, the center of the procession, Puyi himself. He is walking, and 2 junior eunuchs attend him on either side. Then come eunuchs of the imperial presence, carrying clothing, parasols, a canopy. Then more eunuchs still, carrying boxes of cakes and delicacies. Then eunuchs of the imperial dispensary, and finally, at the rear, eunuchs carrying chamber pots and commodes. If along the way, Puyi realizes he needs to use the toilet, the eunuchs will be there, rushing forward with a chamber pot, and then rushing away with it to inspect the outcome. Puyi arrives. According to ritual, each mother asks after Puyi's health, though whether they care is less clear. Long Yu, for her part, believes little boys should be kept in good health by half-starving them. She holds considerable power over Puyi. She is the widow of Guangxu, Puyi's poisoned predecessor. She is Prince Chun's co-regent. In a few years, she will banish Puyi's beloved Nurse Wang, not even allowing her to say goodbye. Though Puyi hates all of his mothers, he has a special hatred for Long Yu. On the way back, Puyi is in a bad mood. Suddenly, he makes a decision. 2 of the eunuchs offended him. It's not clear how, but either way, he wants them to be flogged. The 2 offending eunuchs are made to expose their bottoms. 2 other eunuchs come forward, holding sticks. The eunuchs are beaten on the spot. Puyi watches, and there's delight in his eyes. Back at the Hall of Supreme Harmony, he listens as court officials drone on and on. They speak of matters of state, providing information incomprehensible to the little boy. They come with documents, each requiring the seal of the emperor. He applies the seal again and again and again, under the supervision of his tutors and the palace chamberlain. It's bewildering and terribly boring. As regent, Prince Chun holds the real power and makes the real decisions. But the seal must be applied by the hand of the emperor. At last, after hours of talk and ceremony, Puyi is free. He wants to be entertained. There's no real friend to play with, but the eunuchs are not only his servants, but also his entertainers. One of his favorite eunuchs puts on a puppet show. Puyi loves it, and he comes up with an idea. He wants to reward the puppet master with a cake. But before presenting the gift, he asks Nurse Wang to fill it with sharp pieces of metal. He tells her that he wants to see what the eunuch looks like when he eats it. Wang manages to convince him to fill the cake with dried beans instead. Now, Puyi asks for his air gun. He's looking for a practice target, and chooses the eunuchs. But shooting eunuchs is only fun for so long. He's bored again. He sees a piece of dirt on the floor. He points at it and tells one of the eunuchs, "Eat that for me. And if a living god asks you to eat dirt, you better kneel down and eat it." At night is when the little boy feels safest, curled up in the arms of Nurse Wang. Sometimes he still misses his biological mother, but his memory of her is already hazy. He won't be allowed to see her again until he is 13. Puyi lives an isolated life. He has no idea that beyond the walls of the Forbidden City, the country which he is technically the emperor of, is in turmoil. It's October 1911. In Wuchang, a group of soldiers mutiny, turning against their corrupt generals. This uprising soon spreads all over the country and turns into a full-blown rebellion against the dynasty. The Chinese people are fed up. 4 wars and increasing Western incursions have decreased China's territory, and the majority Han population has been sick of Manchu rule for centuries. The people begin to dream of a more unified republic. Then the imperial army flips, siding with the rebels, leaving the dynasty without military defense. By February 1912, Prince Chun has renounced his position as regent. Empress Dowager Long Yu also steps down and agrees to Puyi's abdication. And just like that, the Qing dynasty is no more. China is now a republic. With the new freedom of press, newspapers sprung up all over the country. Soon, outlets from every political camp started shouting over each other in a highly polarized media landscape. If that sounds familiar, it should. Polarization and echo chambers are fueling record low trust in today's media. But today's sponsor, Ground News, is changing that. They've built the only app and website showing how stories are covered across the world, with context on each source's bias, reliability, and whether they're run by state media, corporations, or independent voices. Take China vowing to retaliate against countries that harm Beijing in their ongoing trade war with the US. Ground News lets us compare the coverage side by side. Chinese state media is warning other countries that attempts to harm their economy in exchange for tariff exemptions are doomed to fail, while US media strongly believes Trump will win this trade war. In a world where the truth can get buried under spin, this kind of clarity isn't just helpful, it's essential. We at Fern think Ground News is a great way to see through the biases and make up your own mind. So we got you 40% off the same Vantage plan we've been using. Go to groundnews/fern or scan the QR code to subscribe. The link is in the description. So, is this the end of Puyi's reign? Not entirely. For the majority of the traditional Chinese population, the idea of a country without a monarch is odd. Abolishing the dynasty entirely is unthinkable. So the new rulers negotiate an agreement with the old monarchs. Puyi would be allowed to live on in the Forbidden City with his servants and personal fortune, plus an annual allowance of roughly $3.4 million in today's money. Even though Puyi officially abdicated the throne, he continues to sit on it, and he continues to put the imperial seal upon court documents. But now these documents concern insignificant matters, staff promotions, the transplantation of trees, when the eunuchs should change their uniforms. The Forbidden City has become a place of make-believe, and it begins to feel like a golden cage, one that Puyi will want to break out of very soon. Eight years later, a well-dressed British gentleman enters the Forbidden City. He will bring chaos to the divine palaces. His name is Reginald Johnston. Johnston is a respected Chinese linguist, a poet and calligraphist. Now he will be the English teacher of China's emperor. But Johnston begins to secretly teach Puyi Western history and philosophy. Up until this point, the young emperor only studied Chinese classics. But under Johnston's influence, Puyi falls in love with British culture, and he starts to change. Normally, all male subjects of the Qing dynasty were required to wear a queue, but soon, Puyi will just cut his off, a major offense to the tradition. He begins to dress like an English gentleman instead. He starts speaking a mix of English and Chinese, and from now on, he will call himself Henry. Puyi also wears glasses, which the dowager consorts will not approve of. He will ride a bike through the Forbidden City and fall in love with movies. But most of all, he will become obsessed with a strange new invention from the West, the telephone. He makes calls to people in Beijing and hangs up before announcing who it is. One time, he orders a meal to a false address, likely the first royal prank call in history. Puyi increasingly gets an idea of what the outside world might actually look like, and everything he's missing out on. He announces that once he's old enough, he wants to leave the country and study at Oxford, just like his teacher. On June 3, 1922, he tries to make this dream come true. He asks Reginald Johnston to sneak him out of the Forbidden City. But Johnston, the man who'd planted all these dreams in Puyi's head, refuses. If Puyi were to leave, Johnston would lose his position, with all its perks and status. Puyi has no one else to help him escape, and though he doesn't fully realize it yet, he's being entrapped even further. The dowager consorts, who also depend on him for their livelihood, have figured out a way to make escape impossible. Puyi faces a decision. He must choose a bride. His only guide, these 4 photographs, selected by the dowager consorts. He is 16 years old. The pictures are small, the faces of the women difficult to see. He draws a circle around one that looks pretty. This is Wenxiu, a 12-year-old Manchu girl. But the dowager consorts don't consider her a suitable first choice. She's an aristocrat, but she's too poor to be empress. He chooses again. This time he points to a 15-year-old girl from a prominent rich family. The dowager consorts are pleased. Her name is Wang Rong. 2 tiny pictures. One will be his wife, one will be his consort. He's encouraged to point to other pictures to choose secondary consorts, but Puyi refuses. One is enough. The pictures he selected are taken away. He won't see either girl until his wedding night. A couple of months later, just after the wedding, Puyi is with his empress wife for the first time. He has no experience with women. Now, on his first wedding night, he's supposed to consummate the marriage. But he doesn't know how. No one told him how this works. He panics and runs away. Puyi didn't consummate his marriage then, and it's probable he never did. When asked many years later, Puyi's little brother said the ex-emperor was found to be biologically incapable of producing children. This may have been literally true, but some historians speculate that this was a euphemism, that Puyi was, in fact, homosexual. The years after Puyi's abdication are years of chaos. The first Chinese premier declares himself emperor. A few weeks later, he abdicates. 6 months later, he's dead. Meanwhile, warlords fight all over the country, and Western powers continue to assert economic and territorial influence through concessions. China is weak, fragmented, and without central leadership. In November 1924, one of the warlords takes control of Beijing and forces Puyi to leave the Forbidden City. He can keep his private wealth, and he'll get money from the state, but his days as emperor are finally over. To Puyi, now 18 years old, this doesn't sound too bad. He's always wanted to live an ordinary life. From this day forward, he'll be a private citizen, free to do whatever he wants. But his freedom will look quite different from what he expected. 26 years later, in a Chinese prison, to be more precise, the Fushun War Criminals Management Center. The dynasty is no more. The republic is no more either. After a brutal civil war, Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communist Party have seized power, and they've installed re-education centers all over the country. Prisons and labor camps where enemies undergo communist brainwashing in harsh conditions. They either learn to be communists or die in the process. This is one of them. Prisoner number 981 is weak and absurdly incompetent. He only recently learned to tie his shoes and brush his teeth. He is hopelessly untidy and constantly forgets simple actions, like turning off the faucet after use. Before his imprisonment in 1950, he'd never have to do such things. They'd been done for him. He'd been a living god, after all. Now, like so many others, he's going through so-called remolding. He's compiled a list of Japanese crimes in Manchuria. He attended presentations by Japanese war criminals. These crimes, he was to blame for them, he begins to realize. For this is Puyi, the prison's so-called #1 traitor. After leaving the Forbidden City, he aligned himself with the Japanese. They first housed him in Tianjin, then enthroned him as emperor of the Japanese puppet state of Manchukuo in Manchuria. The region was invaded by Japan in 1931. For 11 years, he'd been the puppet emperor once again, controlled by the Japanese, legitimizing their myriad war crimes in Manchuria. When the Soviets invaded Manchuria in 1945, Puyi had been captured. Tried as a war criminal at the military tribunal for the Far East, he'd lied shamelessly to save his skin, disavowing all responsibility for his role as a ruler and blaming the Japanese, his former ally. Shortly after the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949, the Soviets sent him back to China. Now in Fushun prison, he's being remolded. The Chinese communists realize he's a powerful symbol, an incarnation of everything they're against: decadent imperialism and capitalist greed. If he can be turned into a communist, anyone can. It would be the ultimate symbol of their ideological supremacy. Puyi will spend 9 years at the prison camp, listening to lectures, grappling with his guilt, committing to paper his many sins. In the end, he is released, weak, shrunken, and humble. Puyi is now a true believer, a die-hard communist. At least, that's what he says. After being released from prison, Puyi moved in with his sister in Beijing. One time, he even worked as the tour guide in the Forbidden City, the place where he was once crowned the emperor of the fourth largest dynasty in human history, ruling over a third of the world's population. A private citizen at last, Puyi eventually took a job as a gardener, working quietly among the plants. It seemed that Puyi at least found some sort of freedom. Throughout his life, he has worn many faces. As a toddler, he was traumatized by a sudden kidnapping. As a boy, he took pleasure in torturing innocent servants. As a teenager, he dreamed of becoming an Oxford student. As Emperor of Manchukuo, he was complicit in horrendous crimes against humanity. And as a prisoner, he was repentant and humble. He died on 17 October 1967.